Hello, all you mayhem makers. I'm Mindy with Quilting Mayhem, and welcome back to another Kona block of the month. We're on to month 5, and once again, fairly easy. Got a couple different pieces in it, but we're just working with half square triangles, flying geese, and what I would call kind of half of a snowball block. So I will show you all the steps. We'll start right out the gate, that lovely half square triangle. I think it's in every block. So as we do, draw that diagonal line. So 1/4 inch either side of the line. Cut it apart, press it, trim it, and that step's done. Step 1's always easy peasy, okay? Then step 2, flying geese. All right, we did it last month. We're gonna do it again. I did little step outs even. I'm trying to do better for you guys. So you're gonna have your rectangles, you're gonna have your squares, and you're gonna draw diagonal lines. This one's got a blue chalk marker, hard to see, but it is on there. You're going to start with step 1, putting that square on there, stitching on the diagonal line, all right? And so it'll look like this. You will cut a 1/4 inch away from that seam that you sewed, and you're going to press it open. So then it will look like this. And you will take another square with its diagonal line, lay it on the other one, and you're going to stitch it corner from the outer corner to the center, stitching it right on that line. So it will look like this. And then you'll cut it and press it, and it'll end up being a lovely little flying geese. Quick and easy, not painful. And remember, this is if you're doing it my way with my cutting, not Robert Kaufman's instructions, because putting all those triangles together just, it makes my head hurt. Way too much bias. You know me, I'm anti-bias. All right, so it was step 2. You are then going to turn it into a star block. So let me go get all my geese done, and then I'll lay out that star block and show you how to put that together. So I'll be right back. All right, so geese are done. I'm gonna flip you over here. Move my cup of tea out of the way. As always, my room's a little bit of a hot mess. We've done these star blocks before, right? So we have all our flying geese. We have our 4 smaller squares, our center square. And I'm loving, look, my nails even match what we're doing today. That was not on purpose, but I find it a little magical. So we're going to sew across into rows, and then we're going to do our rows onto that center. All right, just put them all together. So I'll start putting those rows together, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we're back. We have our rows. So these are all combined, and then we'll take and place one row on top of the other. We're going to match these seams. So remember, it's important to match and pin at these seams. And no matter which way you decide to press, either are matching your flat seams together if they're pressed open with those openings together, or if you're pressing to the dark side, you will be able to kind of nest those seams right up, nudge them next to each other, and then make sure you pin. All right, remember, if you're new, you may need to pin this end, but you want to make sure it's coming all the way to the end. So if yours is not, make sure you're pulling this square to that corner and just putting a pin in it so that your square is going to stay nice and true to size. You're going to make sure that this one matches, and if it doesn't quite match, maybe pull it up, put a pin in there too, and that's what's going to help make sure that as you're sewing, everything's going to come together and keep all your edges square and in alignment. So we'll put these rows on. I'll show you what the block looks like. All right, so we have that lovely star block. So that's going to be the center of your block. And then we're going to move on and make what I'm calling kind of a half a snowball block, because a snowball block, you were doing this technique of putting squares on every corner, trimming them and pressing them on all 4 corners. For this block, we're just doing 2 sides. So you start with your square, and then you have your color squares with your diagonal drawn on there, and then you're just going to start with one corner. Doesn't matter what, I mean, they're all the same. It's a square. and then sew on that line, and you're going to cut it and press it. So once you sew it, it will look like that. Okay, and then here, trim it real quick, and then we'll go on from there, because what will happen is, we'll give it a real press real quick. And a reminder, how you press is your choice. You can press to the dark side, or you can press your seam open. So mine are nice and open flat. I don't know, I like them that way, they're flatter. So you're gonna do this, take a square with another diagonal line drawn on it. So kind of like a flying geese, but using a square instead of a rectangle as your background. And then you're gonna sew on there so that it looks like that. So you're sewing right on that line. You're gonna trim it and press it open. And this will be your half of a snowball. All right, so that's what it looks like. Okay, so once again, if you want to do full snowball, not for this project, but just in the future, you're then just adding squares all the way around. So then this center square looks like it's on point. But for this project, we're doing this because then what we're going to start doing is taking those other rectangles that we cut, and we're going to start sewing them on either side of this block. All right, because now we're getting to those final stages of making this entire block. So I'm going to make this next unit for you and then show you what it looks like, and then we'll lay out all the pieces to get that block together. We're almost there. All right, so we have that half a snowball and we have rectangles sewn on either side. Just make sure you're consistent as to which color goes on the right and which color goes on the left, all right? So don't get those switched around. Then we're gonna move you down here, and I don't have as much table space for this as I'd like, but you're gonna get the idea. So we have our half square triangle that we did in step one in each corner. We're gonna have this snowball with now its rectangles units around your star block center that you made. And once again, just like the star block, we're gonna sew the rows across, and then we're gonna sew it together and have our block be done. So we're right at that ending line. Okay, so I'm gonna go put everything together, show you what it looks like. Oh, and just a reminder, match those seams. So when you're doing the center piece and you're putting this unit onto your star block unit, match at least those two seams right there, pin them before you take them to the machine. Okay, don't skip that step or they're not gonna match up and you're not gonna like it. All right, so I have rows together and I want to show you this because this is important. When you go to take a top row and put it on that center, I want to make sure you're going to pin at every joining seam. So not just these outer ones, there's some inner ones here too. Then I want to make sure you actually pin, meet those seams, because it's important. Unless you're really good at matching up your seams as you're sewing, which is fairly tricky to do. So, I mean, experienced people, you know, and if your blocks are really nice and good and true to size, you know, they should just line up and it should be all magical. But for safety's sake and to get all those seams to match, I recommend, I almost insist you pin at least these 4 seams. The beginning and the end, not as necessary unless you're new and maybe these aren't lining up naturally. If these two sides don't just meet right up like they should on the edge, so like this one's, it's right on that edge. They meet up nice and tight like they're supposed to, so I don't necessarily need to pin. But if you're new, I would pin it because you don't want it, the top fabric, like getting pushed outward, because then it'll make it a little longer than this other one, and you don't want that. You want your blocks to come out square. So you newbies, please pin and then take it to your machine, do that 1/4 inch seam. All right, so block's almost done. All right, so finished project, that block. So block number 5, Finished. Love it. Turns out beautiful. So I hope it works out for you. If you have any questions, problems, reach out to me. Mindy at Quilting Mayhem, call the store, message through Facebook, Instagram, you name it. I will gladly help you. But hopefully this it's not super complicated. You've done most of these steps before, so it should be an easy one for you. Hope you have a lovely month and keep on stitching.